We don't go to banks. We don't qualify for loans. We don't need a credit report. We don't need credit. We don't need anything because we've learned what I call magic words, what to say and how to say it to a seller.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for being here at the Creative Cash Flow Show with me, your host, Jesse Mills, teaching you real estate secrets for achieving time and money freedom. And I've got a guy over here who can teach everybody about achieving time and money freedom because he is the OG in the business. Can I say that? I could say that.
Yeah,
That's
baby.
a compliment.
You could say that.
He's the OG. He's the OG.
I wear it with honor.
Man, I know a lot of cool stuff in real estate. I know a lot of cool ninja tricks. And I'm like, oh, this guy knew all this stuff before I was born and he's killing it. Yeah. And so huge, much respect and appreciation for you, Lou Brown. I will let you introduce yourself because you can introduce yourself better than I can. But Lou Brown is joining us here. And yeah, you got such an amazing experience, background in history, just what you've done already, let alone what you're still doing and how you're helping people. I love it. And just a great attitude, great energy. You always fire me up and inspire me. And you got a lot of experience, man. So Lou, tell us about you.
Wow. Well, Jesse, thank you for the opportunity. And, it's always been a pleasure to work with you. We've had some great discussions and some long-term business relationships, and it's just been fantastic. And you've been some great support for my clients and definitely teaching them, what to do, how to do it in terms of the entrepreneurs that I work with in building their amazing multi-million-dollar businesses, but also their clients that are looking to end up with home ownership. So I certainly appreciate everything that you do. And yeah, I have been buying, holding, and selling property now just for over 40 years. And I love the business. I think there's just nothing better than this. I have tested other waters and I have done other things. And I keep coming back to real estate and particularly single family real estate because I find that the ROI, the external rate of return, as well as the internal rate of return is just unstoppable. But not only that, it's the safety. Because with a lot of investments, you might get really high returns, but you're also doing high risk. And I'm not a high risk player. I'm a low risk player. So I like high returns with low risk.
That's a pretty good combo. That's a good combo. I think most people appreciate that.
I tell you what, it's worked well for me. And, I'm going into my 5th real estate cycle right now. And of course, real estate is cyclical because it's not by happenstance, it's by design. And we know that the financial wildebeests out there, the people who are playing that game are causing it to happen because they make so much money in the upheaval, in the shift, in the change. And so what I learned to do is navigate through this. And that's the reason that I've been in this business for over 40 years, is that I was able to navigate these changes in the marketplace, which of course they're happening as we speak. And so whenever they're playing those games, I just smile because we win no matter what.
So you win in an up market and you win in a down market. Is that what I'm hearing?
And I win in a sideways market too. So it is definitely by design. If they can design stuff, I can design stuff too. And I realized that I had to create some safety nets and some escape valves in my business in order to create that solution. Because otherwise, as you and I have seen, people have crashed and burned in these different crashes. And so as a result of that, they didn't have an escape hatch. They didn't have a safety net to go to. And so everything blew up in their face and they didn't even see it coming. But I know exactly what's coming. So I've created a business model around that really supports all markets that we're in.
Oh man.
it's been a fun thing. It's been a fun ride, but I certainly didn't start in real estate as I was a kid. I was raised by a single mom. I was raised by a single mom immigrant to this country. She
Wow.
came over as a war bride. She came over on the Queen Mary. She
No
had
way.
met her American trooper husband. Everything was going to be fantastic. And she got here, found out he was an alcoholic and an abuser.
Mm.
And she says, I can't stay here. I can't do that. And then she met my father, her second mistake. so, so it ended up just being the two of us. And,
Wow.
I'm so thankful for all the sacrifices that she made in order to keep me and raise me. Certainly, sometimes people make other decisions when they're in a situation like that, but she made the decision to keep me and raise me. And it was a great sacrifice on her part, but definitely I love the fact that I'm now able to impact a lot of people's lives. And it's the result of what I learned when I was a kid. And so I got to meet my mom's friends. And one I'll talk about is Aunt Mabel and Uncle George. Now, of course, in this country, I didn't have any uncles, aunts, cousins, brothers,
Sure.
sisters, grandparents, nobody,
Yeah.
just my mom. And so, I was kind of like the kid in an adult world because there weren't a lot of other kids in my world. It was just all these adults. And I remember going to Aunt Mabel's house at 8 years old. Well, she lived in a duplex, and she told me, and I was sitting. I remember this ottoman, and I was sitting down next to the ottoman, and she said, and she was really talking to my mother, but she said, we bought the duplex that we live in. And she said, the loan at the bank, the amount that they had to pay on a monthly basis, the tenants that they had were paying enough to cover that mortgage. What she was really saying is they were living for free. So here we were, my mother and I, hiding out from the rent man, not answering the door when the bank came at the door,
Yeah.
and then
Wow.
here was Aunt Mabel living for free. So that captured my 8-year-old imagination.
And you're 8 years old and you're getting that. You're grasping that, right?
I grasped that quickly.
Some 8-year-olds are
Living for
playing
free.
with,
I
they're
like
playing
that
with
program.
comic books and sports cars, and they're like, whatever. But you heard that. That's
I
why
heard
that's why
that.
you're a special guy right there, because you're like, wait a minute, we got this going on over here, this
Ding,
struggle.
ding, ding, ding.
You don't.
And she said, well, the next year I went
Mhm.
to visit, and she bought the duplex next door. And she said the people on one side pay enough to cover the mortgage, and the other money was theirs. And then she bought another one and another one and another one. She bought 5 duplexes on the same street, and they had a nice lifestyle, new luxury car every other year. They went on trips, cruises. They had the lifestyle, that freedom thing you were talking about. And I said, yeah,
Mhm.
baby, count me in. I like this. I like this. And she
Mabel's
called me.
buying the whole block.
Oh, I'm telling you, she did. Talk
Yeah.
about target marketing, Jesse, right?
Right? Yeah.
She targeted the block and
Love it.
did extremely well. She called me one day, I was 16 years old. She called me, says, come over here and help me move. I said, move where? She said, a brand new house in a brand new subdivision, all brick home on a corner lot. And I said, yeah, baby, this is great. And she said 2 words that changed my life. She said, accumulate property. Because I asked her, I said, hey, Mabel, how have you been able to do that? So she said, accumulate property. And of course, for cash flow investors like you and I, that's what we believe in. We
Mhm.
believe in buy, hold, sell. And in fact, that's the name of my book, Buy, Hold, Sell, because the
Love it.
concept is that we can get the benefit of holding the property long term. We can get the income off of that, and we can have an exit strategy built in as well.
Mhm.
And so it sure did resonate with me that she had said that. And sure enough, at 18 years old, she called me and she says, you need to buy a house. Or maybe it wasn't called me, but we met actually. And she said, you need to buy a house. And I said, man, Mabel, you go to banks and qualify for loans, honey. I can't go to a bank and qualify for loans. And she said, oh, but you need to meet my friend, Realtor Sue. I don't know how y'all can do it, but you just need to meet her. So here this blue-haired lady comes along, and we're going to go and look at houses, which we did. And I got in the car and we're driving around and I'm actually looking at listings like I'm going to buy a house. Well, she knew something that Aunt Mabel didn't know. And back in the day, they had a thing called NENQ loans. That's non-escalating, non-qualifying. So literally for $45, Jesse, you could go and you could take over somebody else's loan. So that it was a 30-year loan, they had paid for 15 years. You could step right into their shoes and you could just take over payments.
For $45.
For $45.
Sign me
Until
up.
they passed a new law, and that law was 1982, Garn-St. Germain Federal Depository Institutions Act, which gave the banks the right to put the due upon sale clause in the mortgage. So all of a sudden, crash and burn, I was able to buy my first house and even my second house by taking over existing financing on the property. And I loved that. And it was great.
Hold, I can ask you real quick. I don't want to stop your train. I love it, but let me ask you this: how many other people knew that during that time frame?
Oh, that was a common thing. That was a common thing.
Were people doing this?
Didn't know, but oh yeah, this was a thing.
Yeah,
and why not? It makes perfect sense.
absolutely.
The lender, where are they getting hurt in this? They're not getting hurt. Well, of course, we know the rest of the story. They want to start the amortization over. They want new closing costs. They want new origination fees. They want everything to restart. That's why they passed that law.
Hence that law change in 82.
And we might as well say the bankers passed it because you know who really runs the show.
Right. Exactly.
They just have their pawns in Congress, putting things up there, but we know who runs the show.
Dance, puppet dance.
I'm telling you, it's so true, Jesse. And so, you kind of learn how to navigate things. And what happened was I liked my business model. I liked taking over existing finance. Well, let me go read this law. And what I found out in that law, 1701 J3, D6-8 or something, way down deep in the law.
Yeah.
There, I found that there was an exception. When someone places their property in trust, essentially for estate planning purposes, the lender is prohibited from calling the loan due. And I went, yeah, baby. Yes, that's exactly
there it is.
So I went.
Well, Congress doesn't put in loopholes for them or other people.
For who?
There's always a little something in there. You got to go find it. But it's there.
Yeah, they put those loopholes in there for who? Them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And they knew that they might be transferring property to trust, and they knew that they don't want the lender to have the right to call the loan due because they know that those lenders could be treacherous and unforgiving. So they put that loophole in there for themselves and their friends, right? But you read and you find things because that's one of the great things about this country is the laws are available for all of us, just like the tax code.
Hallelujah.
The tax code are available for all of us. Now, what they do is when they pass all these resolutions and continuing resolutions and bills and amendments and things like that, they're putting in little things for certain people and certain groups, contributors, donors. We know what's going on. But you read those things and you say, you know what, I can take advantage of that too. Well, that's what really was the foundation of my business, Jesse. So as a result of learning the tax code, as a result of learning those loopholes in certain laws, we were able to build an amazing business because we are doing everything legitimately, legally, and morally, ethically, doing the right thing. And it's right there in the law that we can do that. But, knowledge is power and money. That's one of the things I teach my licensees is that knowledge is power and money. So,
both.
You have an opportunity.
And power and money leads to freedom.
Amen.
Right?
Amen.
It leads to creating the life that you want, that you think, well, this guy has it or she's got it, he's got it. How come I don't have that? Knowledge and power. And I love that you hit on that, Lou, because so many people either don't even acknowledge what you said before. I want people to get this. They don't even acknowledge it or think about it, or they brush it off like it's some little thing. Everybody has access to the laws, to the tax code, right? To the rules. Some people just dig into it deeper. You dug into it. Who sits down and takes the time to dig into the rules and read through statutes and stuff like that, right? You can do it yourself or you can pay somebody to do it, but either way, you should do it. And like with tax code, right? It's all there. If you want to figure it out, if you want to just be in a cave and be naive and not know and then blame it on everyone else, well, that's your choice. That's your decision, right? But it's there. It's there to learn.
So right. And you've helped hundreds, maybe thousands of people to get loans. And that's something that I learned early on. I didn't have to do. I didn't have to go to the bank and qualify for a loan. So fast forward to today, I've never been to the bank and I've never qualified for a loan on a single family or small multifamily property.
Wow.
And the reason is that I discovered two things. Number one, that you could take over the existing financing on the property, and you had to learn about trusts. So in my early days, I had to learn about trusts because that was the loophole in the law. If someone puts their property in trust, essentially for estate planning purposes, the lender is prohibited from calling the loan due. So I had to go learn that. And I traveled the country. I spent money with 20 different attorneys. I had to create paperwork because it didn't exist. And I created a system around being able to work with sellers and help them plan their estate to put their property into their trust. And then we, using a certain type of trust called a land trust, we were able to take over the beneficial interest of the trust. So literally, instead of buying the real estate, we were buying the beneficial interest of the trust. That's personal property instead of real estate. So as a result of that, we were able to navigate those waters and be able to end up with a win years and years and years. That's been something that's worked. And that law went into effect in 1982 and to this day has never been changed. So we're over 40 years now and never been changed. So you go, oh, well, that's interesting, isn't it? Well, why hasn't it ever been changed? Well, because it's very effective and it works, and they can't change it. They can't change it because that is the loophole. And so I always encourage people several things, but one is be a cash flow investor, that you have your bills paid on a monthly basis where you're generating from your freedom side of your equation. Your business is generating dependable, predictable monthly income. Number one. Number two, always take title to your property in trust. And if you don't have things in trust, put them in trust. And that means your vehicles, your stocks, your bonds, your mutual funds, your bank account, everything in your life, they should be in trust. So those are two, I guess you'd say, foundational pieces to what we do and how we do it. We don't go to banks. We don't qualify for loans. We don't need a credit report. We don't need credit. We don't need anything because we've learned what I call magic words, what to say and how to say it to a seller. And so many times, because of that approach, the seller is willing to be the bank for us. So we can take over the existing financing on the property, or if there's equity beyond that, B, they will carry back financing. And so as a result of that, saying the right things, giving them the right incentives, giving them the right benefits of what's in it for them, then we're able to paint a picture for the seller that makes perfect sense. And they say, yeah, baby, count me in. I like that program. I will be the bank. And so then when we actually purchase the property, we're purchasing it in trust, and that protects the seller and it protects us. So if anybody ever sued us individually, got a judgment against us individually, that would not hurt that real estate. It would not impact that real estate. There would not be a judgment attached to that real estate. So there's a lot of different things that are very intricately woven into the business model, but it's by design.
Absolutely. Well, you've done more than a few of these, more than a few hundred of these. You've helped your students do more than a few hundred of these, right? So you know your stuff. And I'll tell you, I wanted to say this. I want to have you back another time for another episode just about trust, because I know you are the guy on trust. You've blown my mind. And I'll be the first to admit, I'm not a big expert on trust. I know a lot more than the average man or woman, the average person out there, right? But you're mind blown. So, but that could be easily another full hour, 2 hours, 3 hours a day. I mean, days.
I've got a 4-day training on it.
I was just gonna say, how long is your training? Yeah, 4 days. So, okay, we'll take 4 days and condense it to like, a 30, 60, 90 minute, but that come back for another one. Cause I love that. And that's so powerful. And here's what I love about education and the time that we're living in. There's no excuse to not go get on Google. Now, just because it's on the internet doesn't make it right, by the way, right? I'm not saying it's accurate or right because it's on the internet, but right.
Be careful.
Be careful.
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger.
Be careful. But there's no excuse not to go learn. And this magic machine right here, oh my God, there's more power in here, right? Than in the space shuttle. So there's education everywhere. There's no excuse not to go learn, figure this out. But if you hear it, now it's on you to take action. It's on you to go, wait a minute. I've learned from some very smart people, right? And for free via a medium like a podcast or the internet or a blog or YouTube, right? That here's what smart people and people who are maybe at another level doing, got more property than I do, got more assets than I do, got more money than I do, got more time than I, right? Someone might be saying that, and they're all doing these things. Take it upon yourself to explore that and learn it more and get into it, right?
And if I can add a caveat to exactly what you said, because I agree with what you're saying, the danger in that process is that you're creating a patchwork quilt, and you want to be very careful about patchwork quilting because you're taking an idea from here and a concept from there and a form from another place, and you're trying to cobble that together into a business model, and that's a mistake. And I think the important thing that we learn from the concept of franchising is that somebody has been there, done that, created operations manuals, step-by-step processes so that anyone can step into that business model and be able to duplicate what's already been proven. And I think that's a very cautionary tale that when people are random about this business and they don't really have a system behind what they do, they really are random at the business. And they end up being exactly like so many of those people that do fail when the economy changes, when I call it musical chairs, because basically it is musical chairs in business. And at some point, I promise you, they're going to cut out the lights, they're going to cut off the music, and whoever's left standing is whoever's left standing. So if there's not a chair for you to jump into at that moment in time, well, guess what? You're the one left standing. And so I said, how can I create a business model where I'm not the one left standing, no matter what they do? Cut off your switches if you want to, cut off your music if you want to. I'm going to be just fine. Thank you very much. And we've navigated, some pretty interesting times with COVID and what have you. And that certainly presented some challenges that none of us predicted. I mean, who predicted that they would shut down the court system? Who predicted that your tenants could get away with not paying and there would be no resolution to the matter, regardless of the fact that they had signed a contract? Regardless of that fact, there was no court system to back up that contract. And that was a crash and burn for some people because they were not in a position to navigate a situation like this. We came out very far ahead in that situation because we do something different than other landlords do.
What do you do differently?
So
what are other landlords doing that you don't do, or doing that you don't do?
It's an interesting question, Jesse, because I learned that even though I love cash flow, and even though I love real estate, and even though I love holding real estate long term, I do not enjoy landlording. And I found out that landlording sucks. And I found out
tenants, toilets, trash, the 3 T's,
and trouble and trauma.
Oh yeah, 5. Bringing in 5 T's. Yeah.
I got 5 T's. And,
Yeah.
and I said, what do I do to get on the same side of the table with the person that's going to be giving me a monthly income off that property? I mean, let's face it, the truth is they get up and go to work so you don't have to. And you said, what's good about this business? And one of them is freedom, right?
Right.
That you do have the freedom to do what you want. I'm married for over 40 years. My wife, Janice, 41 years now. And we have two wonderful kids, plus a foster daughter as well that we raised. And,
That's awesome.
we've been all over the world together as a family. And I mean, Egypt and Israel, Jerusalem, Bethlehem, Turkey, Greece, Australia, New Zealand.
Wow.
So we've been all over the world together as a family. And it's been a marvelous experience. And it was real estate that allowed us to have that freedom. And it was real estate that let us leave our business for 3 weeks at a time, go to China, of all places, with a whole bunch of my licensees actually went with us.
Oh, cool.
And we had the most awesome time. And guess what? While we were gone, houses were bought, houses were sold, properties were rented, and we didn't have anything to do with it. It was because the system was working, right? And so what I discovered is that the best place to be is to offer your tenant something that they can hope for, dream for, vision for, plan for. And in fact, that you're playing a role in that. So even my tenants in apartments, we give all of our residents the path to home ownership, where we help deserving families, regardless of credit or financial background, to end up with home ownership. So as a result of that business model, we were able to take our existing residents and convert them to a whole new path that some of them were on and some of them weren't on, and give them a vision, a hope, and a dream for their future. And so that worked out fantastic.
I love that.
Over the years.
Yeah.
We started years ago with the lease with the option to buy. And I used to only offer a 1-year option. And I found out that most people just couldn't get it done within that first year, that just wasn't enough time to get themselves, to get their momentum going, to get their credit, to get their down payment, just wasn't enough time. So I saw these lease options blowing up, and I said, what can I do that just incentivizes them and gives them something more than me just making money off of the option? And so I came up with the plan of a 3-year option to buy. And what we did was to incentivize them, what we did is every month that they pay their rent on time and take care of minor maintenance, then we would give them a $100 credit towards their down payment. So as a result of that, that gave people up to 3 years to get their act together.
So now they got the time to get their act together, make those changes they need to make that they can't do overnight because they're not overnight changes. And they're not just renting, and they're not just throwing all their money out to a landlord at a house that's never going to be their house. It's going to be their house, and they're getting part of that back every month.
Exactly right. So they've got a plan.
It's awesome.
They've got not only a dream and a vision, but a plan to follow, right? So we present the plan to them, and we have a plan called the Path to Home Ownership. And that plan, they join a membership, and then in that membership, it actually gives them the path. And actually, you're part of that membership because of the videos that you so graciously shared.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you are a big part. And so as a result of that, when they join the membership, they're given access to those videos to get the training that they need, which you so beautifully do. They give the training that they need in order to understand the path and to have at least a deeper plan to build their credit, build their down payment. What's it going to look like in order to qualify for a loan? And that's what they go through that training to learn that. And then in addition to that, we give them videos on home maintenance because we tell them you are a homeowner in training. And most people didn't learn from their parents how to properly maintain a home. And so I want to take that back and maybe not say most people, but some people, right? So some
I'm going to go with most. I think you're right on that one. Yeah.
and so as a result, now they're given, okay, these guys are up to helping me. These guys are actually supporting me in this process. Because the truth of the matter is, back in the day, people, you just used to throw them into the lease option and didn't give them any guidance or support in actually achieving that. So we've got a different plan. Because remember, our goal is to buy wholesale. And so in the holding process and the path to home ownership, we can literally take people up the path from rent and graduate them up to rent to own, graduate them up to agreement for deed, also known as contract for deed or bond for deed or land contract. We step them up to that. And then finally, when they get good enough credit, good enough down payment, they come back to Jesse and get a loan. and they get
you guys
a
get paid off, and it's all them, and they fully own it.
And they've got helped them get their property, they've paid off, and they love it.
Yeah.
And without that path, most people aren't going to get there. That's just how it is. I mean, you look at the statistics. The statistics are that only 64% of America owns their home, right? So we got a whole 36% that don't own a home. Well, that's over 100 million people that don't own a home when you do the math on it.
Yeah.
And so that's a whole lot of people that need us, not want us, but need us. And when we provide to them a path to take, then they go, yeah, baby, count me in. So that's really our mission. Our mission is to transform lives through affordable housing, to empower families and individuals to enjoy the American dream of home ownership.
I love that. I love that. I love you have that. I love that you have that memorized. I know that that's what your mission has been. And the thing I want to point out is, again, how long have you been doing this system, Lou? And not just you doing it, right? Not like, hey, it's a good idea. Like, I'm not going to do it. You should do that, right? We all know those people, right? Like, well, I wouldn't do it, but you should check into this. You've been doing it personally, you and Janice, who's just such a sweetheart. It's great to catch up with her a couple of weeks ago. You guys have been doing this for a lot of families and folks for a long time, but then all of your students and your licensees as well. How many years total?
So I've been teaching and training people since 1986. And of course, where we are now has been an evolution. So we didn't start having a complete business model and a complete business plan. I mean, it took years to figure things out. I mean, some of the forms and documents we use, we literally update annually. And because there's an evolution of the business, there's an evolution of our understanding, there's an evolution of the processes and formulas. There's ways to speed things up. There's ways to improve profitability. For example, now we have, for a typical landlord, they have debt service on the property that they're buying, and then they collect some rent. So they're making that differential. And for most landlords, that's all they get, because they accept security deposits, and that's not their money. So that money goes into a bank account. They actually have to tell the tenant where it is and what the account number is,
and pay interest on.
And pay interest in some them.
Yeah.
So it's like, how crazy is that? So I invented this thing called move-in fee, and our whole business changed dramatically. But that's part of the evolution, right? So we don't do security deposits anymore. We do move-in fee. And then for people with more money, we've got an option to buy. We give them the option to buy so they can secure their purchase price for 1 year. And then the price begins to appreciate, because remember, I gave them a 3-year option to buy. But for 1 year, that price is actually fixed. And then it begins to appreciate after that. And then at some point, they can even evolve to our in-house financing program, which is agreement for deed or contract for deed. And then when they get good enough credit, good enough down payment, they can even refinance out of that into a brand new loan from the bank. So they've got an evolution of process, and we've got that all built in. So that's literally what we market out there in the world, is so that
Love it.
people can understand that, hey, these people actually have a path I can go down.
Well, and one thing I tell a lot of people when they're coming to us and, working with us and, me and my team getting into a home on a lease to own on a contract for deed, right? Or one of my coaching students around the country that are, doing the same sort of model. And we do it the way you do it, Lou. We do it a little bit different way. We've got a couple of things, right? And like you and I've talked, there's so many different ways in real estate. There's no right or wrong. You found what you love, and I think what you're doing makes more sense than just about anybody else, honestly, because you are getting those different paychecks and those different ways of doing things. Building kind of freedom down the road, but then also right now. But what I tell people, I haven't been doing it for 40 years. But since 2011, we've been helping people get into homes this way creatively. And I say, hey, I think the BBB is a little bit of a racket, right? You got to pay them no matter what. And, it's a little bit of a racket. But nonetheless, if I was taking people's homes and if I was taking people's money and not doing this the right way, trust me, I would not have an A rating with the Better Business Bureau. And you'd be on the front page of the paper within a year or two, and you'd get found out, right? So I think it's amazing that you've been around doing it that long. And I remember the first time that you and I actually met was at, I believe, Ron LeGrand conference, right? And we got connected and had dinner, and I'm like, wow, this guy is sharp, and holy cow. Again, your history is crazy with everything you've done, but I really, really appreciated the fact that you and I want this to have a good name. And to people to understand that, there's some bad actors out there, but those people are not how we do it. It's not how we teach it. It's not, this is just another way to buy a home, another way to sell a home. And like you said, it's in-house finance, in-house financing, and that's what you're doing. But if you're doing it the wrong way, there are some people that do it the wrong way. They're bad actors, they're bad characters. And unfortunately, there's people with no ethics and morals doing it. You're providing a path. You're providing time. You're providing a strategy. Now, you can't, like I can't, and you can't wake up every day and go work for people. And we're not following them around with every financial decision and saying, oh, don't buy that coffee. Oh, don't buy that boat. Like, oh, what are you doing? Right? Sometimes
don't buy that new truck.
Don't buy that new truck. Well, you were looking good, and then you just went back a year, right? Because you
got this $600 new ding against your debt to income ratio.
That's not going to hurt me, is it?
No.
Yeah, sure as hell is. Sure as hell is. So we can't make those decisions for them, but what we can do is we can give them the roadmap to how to go from here, which is a no, to a here, which is a yes. Give them the time, and this is something I say all the time. Whatever problem or problems somebody has with the banks are saying no, shaking their head. I want to know what that is. And again, my background of, in being in the mortgage world for 15 plus years, I know what those rules are and guidelines, and we still have our teams, that are in day out doing that. But how long does it take? So if you have a 1-year problem to fix, I'm going to give you 2 years at least, because life happens. What if you don't get it done in a year, right? So, long-winded way of saying, hey, look, you guys do it the right way. And I respect that a lot, because we need to give it the positive reputation and limelight, that it deserves, because people need this. And if it's done the right way, it's a great system. It's a great system and a great way to buy a house.
I appreciate your saying that, because that was a vision that I had years ago. I was the vice president of the Real Estate Leadership Association of America. I took that organization and transformed it into National REIA, which is the National Real Estate Investors Association. So I was the founding president of National REIA. And one of the things that I had as a goal, a mission, a dream, was to rename and repurpose and refocus people's attention on real estate investors, because the word real estate investor is not well received out there in the real world, right? So that is a name that I don't want to use, and that I don't use out in the world. We are affordable housing providers. And in fact, we're certified affordable housing providers. That's actually the business model I've been talking about. And so as affordable housing providers, aren't we? Because we don't let anybody move into any property that they can't afford. So we actually pre-screen these people. We look at
Completely.
their income. We confirm things before we allow them to move in. We've got to be very careful who we move into our properties. We've got to make sure that they can afford the place they're moving into. So of course, we're affordable housing provider.
Yeah.
And just that renaming, and as you said, there's a lot of bad actors out there. That's true. And I'm going to say that that's also part of my mission, is that we have an umbrella. And when people are operating under my brand, they're literally doing this path to home ownership under that brand of certified affordable housing provider. Well, why is that important? Because they've had 6 days of training. They've had testing. They had to pass the test before they could use that brand. And so as a result of that, they've actually earned the right to use that brand. And we have oversight. So if we ever find that someone is not playing the game the way they're supposed to be playing the game, we can yank the brand. And that is an important distinction between, Joe buys houses out there in the world and Sally buys houses versus the idea of a license to use, right? So all of our people are licensees of a system. So as a result of that, there's certain, they agree to an ethics distinction of things that we've agreed to, and they agree to it as well. They agree to abide by those ethics, and they help the movement, and we call it the Path to Homeownership movement, where we are able to move these lives. So many people that would love to have the opportunity of homeownership, but they can't. And you're absolutely right that many of the people that come to us have been taken advantage of by someone else. They've actually gone into a lease with the option to buy, and they took their money and didn't give them what they were buying. Or they sold the house out from under them. Just horrible stuff.
Horrible.
And you just don't do that. Period.
That stuff drives me nuts, and I want to find those guys and gals and put them under.
Wring their necks.
Absolutely.
Because first of all, they don't deserve to be in our business. We do have a freedom creating business. There's no question about it. Correct. We do have amazing cash flow from this. There is an amazing profitability in this. And what happens is that those kind of folks just hurt themselves. They're not looking at it from the long-term perspective of being in the business. Look at me. Over 40 years in the business. Well, there's a reason for that. Because,
absolutely.
You got the longevity of a valuable business model. And, when I was talking earlier about the distinction of, there's an evolution of what we do and how we do it. Well, landlords, they make the difference between what the basic underlying debt service is and what they rent the property for. And that's their profit. Well, for us, we start there, and we have 25 profit centers above that.
25.
25 profit centers. Yeah,
holy cow.
I love teaching this. So, when people go, "Oh my gosh, I've been a landlord all these years, and I was missing out on these 25 profit centers," and honestly, it brings hundreds of thousands to the bottom line. Like one of my licensees started with me, and in 2017, he was making 22,800 in added profit centers. And then in 2019, he was making 111,000. In 2021, it was $148,560. So
in
I love
added
that.
profit centers.
Added over and above the regular amount.
That's the cherry on the whipped cream. It's the cherry on the sundae. Holy cow.
It's the beautiful thing. But that's
gorgeous.
What comes from having a system, right? So that when you are signing people up, for example, immediately you're signing up their utilities. Well, you get paid on that. When you sign up there and they have a security system, you get paid on that placement of the security system plus a monthly income. You get paid on all these different aspects of what the people are going to spend anyway. And so we'd like to bring value to the table for them, get less than they're currently paid. Plus, we're getting a slice of that. And that's just, because of the fact, like the move-in fee, for example, that's a profit center if you're a landlord, that's definitely a profit center. And, if you got 20 rentals, think about converting 20 rentals into the path to home ownership. Well, you just got all of that security deposits converted into move-in fees, and you get all that money. It's like a windfall. All of a sudden, you had 20 rentals, and you got $1,500 per rental in security deposits. You just picked up 30 grand that day.
Yeah. Wow. That's insane. Well, like you said before, and I use this sometimes, but I give you credit for it all the time. I say, like my friend Lou says, magic words, because it is magic words that you're using. And it's, these things are happening anyway. So it's very, very smart. I was just interviewing a friend of mine, David Dodge, a week or two ago. I don't know if you know David, he was at the event we're at, but David has a very good, beautiful, consistent stream of affiliate income coming in every month, right? Really, and then started with just, how do I get this for free, right? I'm using these softwares, I'm using these systems, I'm paying for it as part of my day-to-day business. I'm paying for it, but how do I get it for free? Well, and then it went from free to I'm getting paid to now it's nearly $20,000 a month coming in affiliate income. So I bring that up because what you're saying is beautiful. You're doing this stuff anyways, but you're just stopping for a second to think beyond just the ordinary. The ordinary is cash flow, money in, money out. No. They have utilities, right? They've got a security system. How do we take all of these things that are happening and just really maximize it? That's incredibly smart.
Oh, that's great. That's great, Jesse. One of the things that you are in the business of is finding people that have less than perfect credit. And what do? We actually put them into a credit restoration program.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's provided by a nonprofit organization. They pay us to bring those people. So we not only get paid to put them into the program, we get paid a monthly residual income while they're in the program. But they give them other services over and above the credit restoration, so the people don't leave the program because they're getting all these other services. So once they restore their credit, which usually takes 3 to 4 months, well, now what happens? They just stay in because they're getting all these other goodies. Well, you continue to get paid on that.
Yeah.
Is that a beautiful thing?
It is a beautiful thing. And, I'm thinking to myself, there's some of these things that we need to maximize more of in our organization of what we're doing. And
I can help with that.
I know you can. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, you're pointing out to a lot of both people that are interested in the business that we do and dyed-in-the-wool landlords. People who have been doing what we do, but they haven't been doing it how we do it, right?
Correct.
So we can actually enhance their businesses in a dramatic way, in a very bottom line oriented, big income way.
Yes.
Because I built my business on what I call four things. Is it bits and pieces and hunks and chunks?
Yes. Bits and pieces, hunks and chunks.
Yep. So the bits of income, for example, I said that our people join a membership. Well, that's an annual membership. So they join that membership every year. 100% of our people are on the annual membership. And that's another income stream. Well, so that'd be a bit of income. And then the commission that we get putting people into credit restoration, that's another bit of income. But then you can sign up other people that sign up people for credit restoration. And now that's a piece of income because you're getting overrides on other people's efforts. And then the hunks of money are those down payments, move-in fees, option fees, down payments. We call those hunks of money. And the chunks of money is when they cash you out. So when they cash you out on the property, baby, you just got that we call it pop the top. We actually call it pop the top. When they pop the top and they get a brand new loan from the bank, you pop the top on the champagne.
Pop the top. I love it. So around here we say pop the top. That means put a second story on a house. But you're saying pop the top. They get the loan, right?
They get the loan. You get your hunk of money. Your chunk of money rather.
Chunk.
And that those chunks of money can be huge. I got a check the other day for $348,000. And, that was just a payoff on one of those people that had moved up the path to homeownership. And now he was going platinum. They were paying off our in-house financing, and they got a new loan from the bank.
Okay, so here's a question I want to ask you, because I know some people either are thinking this maybe, or they're not even there yet. Okay. But I know for me, when I tell people about our business model, which again is very, very similar to what you do, Lou, there's tons of overlap in what we do, a little bit of differences. And the cool thing is you can do both, and they both make sense. And especially in any economy, in any market, I love it, right? I love it. And just knowing those solutions. But so we both have this in common. Okay. People will say, well, Jesse, if they're going to buy the house from me in 2 years or 3 years, I don't have the house anymore. I just want to get this house and hold it for 50 years. You lose houses. You're losing houses all the time. So you just get paid $348,000 to lose a house. And now your number of doors went down. Right. So what do you say to those people that say, well, Lou, you're losing houses?
I say, what is your exit strategy? Because someday you're going to wake up and you're going to be sick and tired of being sick and tired of being a landlord. And you have had your share and your fill of tenants, toilets, trash, turmoil, and all the things we were talking about.
Like drama. 5 T's.
So as a result of that, and bought, you know this, Jesse, we bought so many properties from burned out landlords where they literally got to that moment in time where they just went, I'm done. I'm done. I'm so done. I'm so over it. Well, what happened?
And they were done because they didn't know any of this stuff, right? They didn't know any of this stuff.
They didn't have any being on the same side of the table with the tenant, none of that stuff. So they've lived with some trauma. They've lived with some tragedies and upsets and breakdowns and all kinds of things. Well, in our world, you really have to make a decision, because in a real business, there's an acquisition phase, there's a maintaining phase, and there's typically a liquidation phase. So what is your liquidation phase? And people can, forecast, and they can say, oh, well, I'm just going to be in this forever. Well, I promise you, that's probably not going to happen that way. And so we've been able to buy beautiful portfolios of properties from burned out landlords or dead landlords, as the case may be, because they died and the family has no interest whatsoever in the business. And so, in other words, they didn't think ahead about what is my exit strategy. Am I going to burden my family when I die? Are they going to be into owning these properties? Or are they going to be into selling to Lou Brown at a discount?
Right? When they come and say, yeah, baby, I can help you out.
It's a beautiful thing. And so, and we can even put a tax deferral trust in place for those sellers. There's a lot of things we can do for those sellers, but there's just some things that people really need to consider when they're in this business is, what is the exit strategy? But to answer your question, what do you do if you get paid off and don't you lose doors and all of that? The answer is yes. But what you don't know and what you're not aware of is going back in time and looking at what a house cost in 1970 versus what a house costs today. Well, yes, those numbers are different, but once inflation is taken into account, houses, and this is going to be a shocker to everybody on here, are actually a bargain right now. Then you say, oh my God, that can't be true. Well, go back and do the math. So in other words, houses were more expensive as it relates to all other commodities than they are today.
Oh, is that based on like annual wages as well? Is that taken into account?
It is. Yeah. And it's gold and silver and oranges and many different
cost of living.
The cost of living.
Cost of living.
Back then.
That's inflation too.
Now. And of course, one of those cost of livings is your monthly mortgage payment, right? And the cost of a house. How many bars of gold, how many ounces of gold did it take to buy a house in 1970 versus how many ounces of gold does it cost to buy a house today? And what you're going to find is it's actually a bargain.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. But that's such a great point, because people just think, a lot of people just think acquire, collect, have all these doors. And then, and one big takeaway that I think a lot of folks need to remember or to think about is, what do you want your life to look like? Right? What is your day to day? What do you say 5 years from now? This is what I want. I want to wake up, like picture your perfect day. I wake up on a Monday morning, right? What are you doing? What are you wearing? Where are you going? What's your plan for the day? No one says I want to be fixing 90 toilets, right? But you feel good because you got 90 toilets. Now, hopefully you're not fixing 90 on the same day. That's a pretty bad day. But right,
That would be a crappy day, wouldn't it?
They all got together, Lou, against you. We're going against Lou Day. But yeah, I mean, right, what do you want that to look like, and what do you envision your lifestyle? And so part of that is not being busy, but being successful with the cash flow. And again, that's why we talk so much on the show about freedom, because it's lifestyle freedom and financial freedom. And you can have one or both, and oftentimes hand in hand, not always. But so I think that's great, because you're getting there and you're taking those chunks and those hunks and then throwing in a little sprinkles of everything else. And you have this beautiful machine. And you can, I mean, how many people, I don't know if you know this number, but how many people do you think you have graduated into being homeowners since you started?
I've actually been working on that number lately. And, it's, if we go back in time, as to how many people over the decades that we've been doing this, it's just an incredible number of folks. And like I said, today is even better than it used to be, because back in the day, we really weren't helping them like we do today. We really weren't supporting them. We really weren't giving them a true path to take. And so I would say our success rate is much higher now than it was back in the day.
Well, because you keep learning and figuring out new ways to help people. And this worked, this didn't work. Do more of this, do less of that, right? Which I think is fantastic. Same here. I mean, I think our success rate in our business is roughly 80-85% of people going full circle and getting financing on the home they want, which is pretty stinking huge. Stinking huge. Now, I like to point out the 15 to 20%, that haven't, were almost all of them saying, I don't want this anymore. Right.
Yeah.
Saying,
or I've had everything. I've had inherit houses, breakups. That's one of the reasons they don't take the house. Breakdowns, death. There's just so many different things that do happen in human beings' lives. You just really, take a microcosm of humanness, and it's going to happen in your business. And so we feel for folks when they have situations like that, or they downsize, lose a job, whatever the case is, and they hand the house back to you because they just can't do anymore. Well, that's no different than what happens to a bank. The bank made the loan. The bank doesn't look back at that. The bank doesn't say, oh my gosh, this house is worth $100,000 more than when we sold it to them. The bank just says, thank you for your monthly payment. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So my whole goal is to get people at least to that in-house financing level, because that's where the rubber meets the road, baby. Because think about that. You never call your bank and tell them that your water heater went out. You never call your bank and say the roof is leaking. You never call your bank and say anything but where do I send the payment to? And so, the important thing if you've got an exit strategy in mind, is to get to that level of being the banker. Now, being the banker, yes, there's pop the top when they go to the bank and qualify for a loan, but imagine that you can stop them at that level, at that next level down, which means the in-house financing, and say, listen, you've been such a good customer. We know the property. We know you. We know you've got a good job. You know what? We'll just lower the interest rate and keep you as a customer long-term. And we don't have to give those people up if we don't choose to.
Which is fantastic. And you know what? I've talked with a number of tenant buyers and, agreement for deed buyers of your students and your licensees. And they're like, we don't want to get financing. We're good. I'm like, I can get you 1%, 2, 3, whatever, maybe better than what you're getting. No, we're good. We like so-and-so. We like them. I'm like, really? It's like, you guys have a relationship. And you know what? Honestly, you provided them the opportunity to even get into the home, then to get it and to keep it. And however they want to do that, you're giving them the options, which I think is beautiful. And you're not saying you can't do that. You're not saying don't go see Jesse and his crew, who can help you get financing and pay us off with, a bundle of 1,000 mortgages that get sold on Wall Street, right? You're whatever you want to do that's best for you, you do it. But you're giving the options, you're giving them the path.
Well,
but if you keep it for 40 years,
put your finger on something really true. It's know, like, and trust. And over time, they do get to know you, they do get to like you, and they do get to trust you. And so as a result of that, and it's an important thing to be responsible around, right? Because you're doing the right thing and you are giving them a great opportunity. And so as a result of that, I get a quick story. 81-year-old man joined our Path to Homeownership program.
Okay.
Hadn't owned a home in his name. And so here he is in our program, and he actually does exactly what we tell him to do. He joins the credit restoration. He gets his credit built up. Okay. He's ready for his down payment. He's ready for anything. Mr. Harris, you can qualify for a loan at the bank now. Congratulations. And he says, well, I don't want to go anywhere. I like bringing my payments to y'all.
He's like, I'm good.
He said, well, yeah, but you can go to the bank and qualify for a loan.
Yeah.
Well, we ended up lowering his interest rate and just keeping him as a customer because he really didn't want to go anyplace else, and we didn't want him to go anyplace else either. So, so we were quite happy with that, and so that just gives you some insight to what an exit strategy can look like.
So you have a lot of those scenarios coming up and happening, and that's just exactly it. Like and trust, and they know you and they're comfortable. And so I think it's fantastic, man. One of the things, I mean, you've dropped so many nuggets on here, things that even Lou, I've heard you say a couple of years ago that I'm like, dang it. That's right. I'm not doing that yet. I'm not doing that in my business. Right. I forgot about that with the hunks of the chunks. Right. But I love that this all started with you being 8 years old and recognizing this is a situation I'm in right now. And how come it doesn't look like this person's situation? And you're an 8-year-old boy going, what are they doing differently? Which blows my mind, right? My little guy is 7, he'll be 8 in August. My daughter's 9, she'll be 10, right? And for them to get those thoughts in their head, and I drag them with me to all the properties and show them what we're doing. And this is vacation day, this is a work day, and maybe it's one and the same, but I think that's really, really cool. So just, you notice that, you recognize that at such a young age.
Yeah, it's a great business. There's nothing like it, and it can be passed down from generation to generation. So you're doing exactly the right thing to let them see that. There's so many of my licensees that have come through all of my trainings, and now they're bringing their kids. And I've got multiples that are bringing their kids now to my trainings because they built their foundation of wealth and their foundation of income. Now they want to get their kids an insight. We all know that kids are going to hear things differently from somebody else than they're going to hear it from you. And so I just love that responsibility, that opportunity to give them some insight into what their future can look like.
Well, yeah, and what it can look like. Doesn't mean it has to, but what it can look like, right? It could be that if they want that to be that way, which is super, super cool.
I just got to warn all the parents out there that I do let people know about the fact that I did not go to college to learn this. In fact, I went to college for 1 year and I couldn't figure out why I was there. I told my mom, I said, you know what, I'm going to do some stuff, and if that doesn't work out, I'm going to go back. And I never went back.
And mom supported you with that decision?
Oh yeah, she supported. She was my greatest fan. And
that's awesome.
And she said, okay, she trusted me a lot, and we had built a lot of trust with each other because we kind of raised each other. So wow. She didn't understand anything about money. She thought money was something to be spent, and if you didn't have it, you spent it anyway. So she didn't understand money at all. But
she needed to hang out with Aunt Mabel a little bit more, it sounds like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I in fact, she was my first tenant, and I when I bought that house at 18 years old, I said, Mom, do you want to move in with me? And I said, we're paying $600 a month rent now, and you pay me $100 a month, and you take the other $500 and you put that towards your debt. And a year and a half, she was free and clear for the rest of her life.
Wow. That is incredible. That is
Yeah, it was the
awesome.
least I could do for her, right? All the
Yeah.
sacrifices she made. So.
It sure is. But that's, I mean, yeah, that's being the good son and doing it the right way, taking care of family. And that's why we do this. I think it bugs me sometimes when people say, gosh, you guys talk about money a lot. You're thinking about money and assets and this and that. I'm like, because when you have more, you can do more. Okay.
Man.
When you have more, you can do more. You can give back. You have the time to volunteer. You have the money to donate, right? You can do things. Now, it doesn't mean just because you have it, you're going to do it. People who are broke and don't give will be rich and won't give, right?
So it's interesting that you bring that up because you were there. You were there when I gave the money for the 10 houses in Haiti, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I got the Hero Award for that, and for the contributions to I got 2 Hero Awards. One for the contributions to the industry over all these years, but the other one was for the as you said, the ability to give back and buy 10 houses in Haiti.
10 houses in Haiti you're helping build.
Yeah,
10,
absolutely.
10 families in Haiti because of what you gave away.
Yeah, and it was a great thing. I loved the experience of being able to do that just because there's so many needy people in the world we just don't even know. And we talk about how bad some people have it in the United States of America, but how bad they have it is how good they have it compared to how other people live in the world. You just go, my gosh, a human being is actually living that way. And so your heart goes out. And when you've built an amazing business with an amazing monthly cash flow, you don't even miss it.
Yeah. No. And I think it's our responsibility, frankly, those who have, to give and to share. And, again, there's lots of ways to do that, but if you don't have it, you can't do it. Right. So you got to be able to have it. I mean, when you're in the plane, what does the flight attendant say? Put your own mask on first. Put your own mask on first, and you can help others around you.
Well, our tax code, as well as giving back, actually allows for that. It's a thing called foundations. It's another thing that I teach, but you can have your own foundation. You literally can, using the tax code, you can get a 30% write-off of any income that goes through the foundation. Foundation can own a home, for example. The foundation doesn't charge you any rent on the home that it owns, and you don't have to pay any according to the tax code. So there's just so many hidden gems in the tax code that people with knowledge do take advantage of. So all you have to do is look at certain corporations and organizations that have foundations, and you see them sponsoring a whole variety of things. And imagine that you have your own foundation and it is sponsoring down payment assistance for people to move into homes, for example. Another thing we do with our foundation is we recognize our licensees. So as they're helping people to move in and move up the path to home ownership, we recognize them for that. And they earn the G.D. Sanford Foundation Award for that. And so, there's many different ways that we can edify a company, many ways that we can help them gain credibility. One of them is this brand, of course. That's one way that they gain credibility. And we put them through certification training, so they get the certificate for that. They can show that to sellers. They can show that to lenders. They can show that to their buyers. So there's an amazing amount of credibility that is the reason that people will sell you their house by allowing you to take over their existing financing and carrying back financing, because they've had a good reason to, because of who you are in the world.
I've told you this multiple times, Lou, you're a genius with branding, and not just because you're smart and doing things like that because it's a smart, savvy business way. It makes sense. But yeah, you're doing a good thing and you're helping people. People want to trust you, and they got to know that you're a trustworthy person. And those are the things that instead of, I've just got a t-shirt that says I buy houses on, no offense if any of you are wearing your I buy t-shirts, big fat, t-shirt you got for free at your local RIA, it's all good. But Look at Lou, buttoned up. Yeah, it's got a logoed. He shows up with a book. Who's got a book? You got a book. You show up with the book
Yeah.
and the certificate. So you're doing it really, really intelligently. I dig that.
The book we give our sellers is our Doing Good While Doing Well, how real estate investors provide a service and make a difference.
Mhm.
And so it's written not only by me, but licensees from all over the country. So our people can actually have their own chapter in the book. And then they present that book to sellers, to lenders, city council, county commission, the mayor, because we also tie in very much with the community. And we become good guys in the community instead of those rotten real estate investors over there.
Yeah.
And so getting connected with the community is part of what I teach as well. And, getting people really in a position to win. And because of their credibility, they have something to protect as well. So, doing the right thing within the community is another part of it.
I love it.
And then the book I have for investors is called my Buy, Hold, Sell book. And this is how we teach you cash now, cash flow, and cash forever. And Jesse, as I told you, I will let your folks be able to get this book and, get the $5 off and all that stuff.
Great. Thank you.
That's another way that they can access it took me 10 years to write that book. So all the stuff we've been talking about in book form with details and things like that is what is actually in that book.
Wow. That's so, and I love that you've got the books kind of for both audiences, because it is kind of two different audiences, right? And so you're kind of explaining that. One thing I like to tell our clients, again, our business model is extremely similar and there's a lot of overlap, but I like to show our tenant buyers how at this specific stage they're at when they're being told no by the banks. I'm sorry, we can't get you the house. We can't, come back and see us in a year or two, go fix this stuff. We say, nope, we still got you, right? But I want you to be one of the other sides of our business as one of our investors. And I want to show you how to go be the investor helping someone else get into a home. And then now you're getting cash flow and you're the bank. And it's full circle, right? Which is super cool to say, hey, we're going to start here. That doesn't mean that's where we have to end, right? I get a whole nother plan for you to get to another spot if that's what you want, which most people, when they see what it entails and what it can be, they say, yeah, absolutely.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Well, all they, if they want this book, all they have to do is go to streetsmartinvestor.com, streetsmartinvestor.com /BHS book, BHS book.
BHS for buy, hold, sell.
Exactly
BHS
right.
book. Okay.
BHS book gets you the $5 off. Otherwise, you can go to Amazon.com and pay $5 more. So
Bezos is doing good, man. Bezos doesn't need your extra $5. Yeah.
You don't need that sale. So
he's good.
So we give you the access to be able to get a discount on that. But definitely it's loaded with my best stuff. And we've got quotes and pictures and, details about what we do and how we do it. And documentation is one of my big strong suits, that we have a process to follow with the proper documentation as well. So certainly having paperwork is a big part of this, that a lot of people kind of leave out that part. And it's in many cases, it's the most important piece, as we were talking about earlier, because
crucial.
You don't have yourself covered and it can cost you big time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, that's an extremely important piece of it. And, it's not always the funnest part, the sexiest part, but, keeping things good and positive is a very sexy part of the business. All right. And you got to make sure you're just doing it the best way, the right way. And again, why reinvent the wheel when someone like Lou has already done that, right? You've already done that. And you're constantly changing it. Like with what we do and what we teach, we're constantly updating it. This is how this happened. This is how this happened. And if it's something new, we're going to teach that. So you want someone like that who's doing it already in the streets.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I just commend everybody that's on here, because you're getting some information to advance your life. We know you're not here for us. We know you're here for you. and for your family, and you want to have a better life than the one you've got. And that's another mission that I have, is to make sure that we pay this forward. And Jesse, you're doing such a great job to do that as well. We pay it forward. Why? Because we've been so blessed. We've
Absolutely.
been given so many opportunities, so many gifts, that the only thing we have a responsibility to do is to pay it forward and to make sure that you guys get the right guidance, the right support, the right help, and that now you've got the ability to duplicate what we've been able to do.
Completely. And I appreciate that. Thank you so much. You know, and I've learned, and it's not just a saying, but it's so very true and real, that, you know, you are the 5 people you hang out with. And if those 5 people aren't where you want to be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, next year, you might need to start looking at some different people, you know? And so I think, you know, having a podcast and a show like this, and having amazing guests on like you, who we can learn from, and you're sharing and you're giving, this can be your circle. So I want all of those folks who want to up level and get to the next, you know, best version of themselves, that, you know, that, you know, you're working on, but maybe you're not there. I'm not there yet. I'm not there, but I'm trying, right? And I'm trying to hang around the people that
you're
are there.
Still in that building phase, right?
Well,
there's a lot of things you're doing to maintain too.
There's a lot of things. Yeah. But, you know, we got to hang out with smart people, good people. And so thank you so much for sharing everything. And so where, other than those spots, is there anywhere else that we can find you?
Oh yeah. Definitely. I'm on YouTube, and we've got the Street Smart Investor cast there, and we've got all kinds of tools and training. So you go to streetsmartinvestor.com, and you can learn more about our tools, training, technology, and team that we have to help you build an amazing business. And you can go to YouTube for a lot of my videos and a lot of information on that. And, you know, I've got certifiedaffordablehousingprovider.com, which tells you more about becoming certified and some details about that. So lots of ways to reach me.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And just for us,
of course, our 800 number is 1-800-578-8580. 1-800-578-8580. If you want to skip all that and just talk with Dennis, who is in my office and been with me for a dozen years and definitely understands our system completely.
Awesome. And so who should be calling that? Anyone who's interested in learning more and what this system is?
Sure.
Yeah, perfect.
Absolutely.
I love it. Well, and what I'd love to do is mention the Creative Cash Flow Show, so we know, like, is this how you heard it? Because Lou, you got people coming to you from all over the place, over the place, right? So it'd be great to know, you know, how
we'll put this broadcast up there too.
Yeah. Well, I like to know how people come into my world, you know, as well. And it's such a great.
Definitely. You need to tell me that you came from Jesse, no doubt about it, because I love to know exactly where you've come from. And of course, Dennis does a great job of making sure to ask that question as well. So
I mean, as business owners, we and anyone else listening to this, whether you are a business owner or you're an entrepreneur, or you're thinking about becoming one, you need to know, how are people finding you, where they, you know, and what's working, what's not working. So
absolutely. And we've got so many different ways that we can support people. And I know you'll be putting it out to your folks, Jesse, that's our Wealth Builder workshop. We do a 1-day, and that's another way that we can support you and support them as well.
I love it, man. All right. So we're going to get another thing scheduled, Lou, where you're going to just go high level, maybe get in the weeds a little bit for the people that want to, on trust, right?
Absolutely.
Because you are like the expert nationwide. Like Lou goes all over the country to talk about, you know, using trust in real estate and other ways. And again, another level for a lot of people that you're not there or you're not using it. If you are using it, you're probably not even using it enough. So it's a pretty cool thing.
You may be missing some of the benefits of trust. I've identified over 30 benefits of trust that you cannot get with any other entity. So definitely stay tuned, and we'll create that too.
Yeah. That's absolutely necessary information. So I love it, man. Thank you so much for being a guest on the show. I appreciate it. And you and I've got some other stuff to continue working on that I'm very excited about for your group, my group, and anyone else that wants to be part of that. So we'll probably be revealing some information on that soon.
I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, man. Me too. It's some good stuff. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks, Lou. Have a great rest of the night. And you and I will talk here real soon. Okay.
You're awesome, Jesse. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.